Hey there guys, this is H&M here, also known as Pastor Mallory, the children's pastor at Northgate Wesleyan Church. And today is our last video for the month of December until we start up something very special in January, probably gonna go into February. So there's gonna be some fun stuff ahead. Just know that's coming. I'll have a trailer made so you can see what it is, and I'll probably post that in January, in the new year, so you can see, because we're not gonna start right off at the beginning of January. So you'll just have to wait and find out what that's gonna be. Now the format of this video is a little different than our normal because I would traditionally have something for the little agents of truth out there to do as well so they can participate. But this one's a little different because I am just gonna go through the difference in the stories of the birth of Jesus, and they can just follow along like the other kids because there might be some things that are interesting and things that they've heard before. So this is one that the older kids can go look at and verify that that is the truth that I'm sharing with them, and the younger kids can listen. So that is what's gonna be happening, and hopefully all the agents of truth out there of any age, maybe they'll hear something they didn't hear before, or to reaffirm what we believe. So those are good things. So on Wednesday, and all that I'm asking you to do is go look up the birth story of Jesus in all four Gospels, in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and find out what you could discover was in each of them, because they're each a different perspective and they each kind of share something different. Let's start off with Matthew. Matthew is the first book in the New Testament. And when you go back to Matthew to look up the story of Jesus' birth, there's a couple things that are in Matthew that are not in any of the other books. Okay? For starters, Matthew is the only one that tells us that Joseph considered divorcing her and not even being in a relationship with her. And he is the one as part of the Davidic line. His line is the one that shows that Jesus is the Messiah. So he came from the King David, which the prophecy told that the Messiah would come from the line of David. So we needed Joseph in this story, and God approached him as well through an angel in his dream and told him, this is what is happening. Mary is still a good person and she is doing what the Lord has asked. And so Joseph marries her. But that is not found anywhere else. In fact, Matthew is the only one that tells us that Magi came. These Magi came to Jesus, not when he was directly born in the manger. He doesn't come. The shepherds do, which is found in Luke, but the Magi, or the wise men, they don't come until later. And they're probably not kings. I mean, we don't really know. They're probably more astrologers, Gentiles that had heard and were wondering about this star that was new and different. It was so different, and they had studied enough that they had heard that there was a prophecy that this star would come and it would lead them to a king of the Jews. So they went in search of it. And when they found him, he was actually in a house in Mary and Joseph's home, and that's where they presented the gifts. So it was a few months later. Some have even said maybe a couple years, but whatever it is, it's not right when Jesus was born and he's no longer in the manger. So you know how you see a nativity scene and you have the shepherds and the Magi? Well, you know, there's a little time between them. So just to know that. But Matthew is the only one that tells us that, which is really interesting. And Matthew doesn't tell us anything about shepherds. Nope, nothing about an angel going to the shepherds to go find this Jesus. And Matthew doesn't even tell us that Jesus was born in a manger. Which, guys, mind blown. Like, sometimes you just take for granted thinking that all of them say the same thing, but they do not. Because let's go into the next one. The next book that is after Matthew is Mark. And Mark, interestingly enough, has no reference of Jesus' birth. In fact, the first time it starts talking about Jesus is when he starts his ministry. So it's when he actually gets tested and baptized. So Mark is less interested in talking about the birth of Jesus, but what his ministry was. He probably was about 30 years old when it started. And so this is like, okay, we're getting into the to the thick of it now. I'm going to tell you about John the Baptist leading the way for Jesus, and then Jesus, he's like 30-something when he enters the story. It says in chapter 1, at the time Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. So it starts with his baptism. So we don't learn anything in here about the virgin birth, about Mary and Joseph being his parents. We don't learn about the shepherds, and we don't learn about the Magi. So Mark isn't sharing anything about that. I don't know if you ever thought about that, because all 4 of these are the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which tell us about the life of Jesus. But they have different perspectives and different points they want us to note. So then we go from Mark to Luke. Luke being the one that we know probably the best because we do read it. And if you were in our Christmas program this year, then you know a little bit more because you probably had a verse that you read from it. Now in Luke, we get to hear for the first time what happened with Mary, how she was approached by an angel and she was told she was going to have a virgin birth, and how she accepts it, which is not in any of the other Gospels. As we saw in Matthew, Matthew actually gives us the perspective of Joseph, who had considered divorcing Mary when he found out she was pregnant, but that's not found in Luke. Luke only gives you Mary's perspective. Then in Luke, we get to hear about the shepherds, which we haven't heard anywhere else yet. We got to hear about the Magi, but not the shepherds. And the shepherds actually did go to Jesus at the manger. They found him. They were over in a field a little ways away from Bethlehem when the angel approached them, and a host of angels came to them. Oh my goodness, and they were just like terrified and nervous, and then they're like, we gotta go check this out. I mean, this is amazing that this is happening. I mean, we're the ones being told, which is incredible, guys, because shepherds were kind of seen as the lowest class citizen. They were considered kind of less than, not as important as others. And they were the first to be told. The first ones to find out about it were the shepherds. That's who God is like. This is for everyone. Guys, Jesus' birth is for all the world. And the ones from the lowest to the highest, no matter how you view them, he is coming to them. So recognize who he is. He's the Messiah. Finally, we go to the book of John, which, guys, is totally different than any of the other 3, because it does talk about the birth of Jesus, but in a whole different way. Because John is emphasizing the fact that yes, the Messiah is born, but recognize this very important point, that the Messiah is also God. He's not just fully human, he's fully God. So he's making sure that you know. What does it say? I'm going to read it. Chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word. There's Jesus. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. Kind of hard to miss that. Is with God, was God. And then we get to verse 14 and it says, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and full of truth. This is also very important that you read John, just like you read Matthew, Mark, and Luke, when you are looking to the truth on Jesus's beginning. He is fully human and fully God, and it is a conundrum. It is hard to understand that. It's okay. God should be a little bit beyond our understanding. Okay? But each gospel is sharing with us things you need to know to put the whole story together. Because you can't just look at the humanity of Jesus. It is important that he was fully human because he knows our struggles. He experienced them. He was tempted. He knows. He understands our suffering. That's important. He recognizes God, and then he suffers for us. That's powerful. But that's not all of who he is. He's also fully God. But he chose to suffer for us so that we could have life, which maybe you might overlook if you're only looking in one of the Gospels. You need them all. You need to look into each one to find out more truth on Jesus because they all share something we need to know. And that is our journey into the Gospels on the birth of Jesus. So I hope you guys enjoyed this just as much as I did. I really was fascinated by what I found and didn't find. Okay, well, this is Agent M saying peace out. Hope you have a wonderful Merry Christmas. And remember, this is the season of Jesus, and that's the most important thing of all.